Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Aisha Subarkash. Egypt's incumbent leader Abdel Fattah el Sisi is likely to secure a third term in office as reports show a high voter turnout in the country's presidential elections. If he wins a new 6-year term against the three lesser-known candidates, Sisi's immediate priorities will be to tame Egypt's soaring inflation, manage foreign currency shortages, and respond to his country's own security needs due to Israeli attacks in Gaza. Sisi played a key role in negotiations between Israel and Hamas over the exchange of hostages and the delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza. Egypt is the only country apart from Israel to share a border with the enclave, which along with other Arab nations strongly opposes any Israeli attempt to push Palestinians over the border. And that threat on its already devastated economy has even had the IMF seriously consider a possible augmentation of Egypt's $3 billion loan program. Sisi is among many world leaders who have long said that a two-state solution is the only way out of the Israeli war on Gaza. Could his efforts help bring stability to the region if he is elected once again? And to further discuss Egypt's potential to mediate in Israel's war on Gaza, joining me now from Istanbul is Mohammed Affan. He is a director of Al-Sharq Academia. And Tarek Oğuzlu, he is a professor at Aydın University. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Tarek, let me begin with you. More than 60 million eligible Egyptian voters have headed to the polls to elect their new president. Incumbent president El Sisi is widely expected to second term. So the question is, what would Egypt look like a few more years under Sisi?
I think regarding internal and external developments that might take place after Sisi wins the elections once again, we can say that in terms of foreign policy direction of Egypt, I don't expect to see any radical departure from the ongoing course of action. But regarding internal problems, Egypt has been suffering from a very important severe economic crisis, social tensions. Especially the war in Gaza has already had very negative impacts on Egyptian economy and Egyptian social peace and stability. So Sisi will find time to deal with such kind of internal and external problems to a significant extent. And we also know that the war in Gaza might have some negative consequences on Egypt's relations with Israel. You know the story. Egypt was the first country which signed a kind of diplomatic agreement with Israeli government back in 1970s, and the war in Gaza might negatively impact the continuation of this diplomatic agreements. But we also know that Egypt has been under American support and guidance in such a way to find a way to continue its relationship with Israel, no matter what happens in Gaza, no matter what happens in the larger Middle Eastern geography.
So, Tarek, if Sisi secures the third term, you said you do not expect any significant changes in the country's foreign policy. If we get back to Turkey-Egyptian ties, which have normally after a decade of tensions, do you believe that both countries will be able to maintain this positive trend? And are there any challenges?
Yes, I am 100% optimistic about the possibility of Turkey and Greece continuing their ongoing rapprochement between each other. Over the last 10 years, we have somehow departed from Egypt in one way or another because the foreign policy orientation of the two countries had been quite opposite of each other. But over the last 2 years, Turkish and Egyptian authorities have done everything possible at their disposal to make sure that once again we have a kind of quote-unquote honeymoon in bilateral relationship. And Turks and Egyptian people will continue to get some positive benefit of this ongoing cooperation, not only economically, but most importantly, geopolitically. It is in Turkey's geopolitical interest to cooperate with Egypt because Egypt is a very important country, very powerful country. If we have negative relations with Egypt, this will have some negative consequences on Turkey's Middle Eastern leverages. Because in the past we had very clearly noticed that whenever we had problems with Egypt and many other countries in the region, other countries, in particular the Western international community, had how can I say it, had somehow pushed Turkey to some corners. Even Turkish-Greek relations were not that much positive whenever we had bad relations with Egypt. But thank God we have begun a kind of rapprochement. And I think this will continue because Turkish and Egyptian position on the war in Gaza are also similar to each other in one way or another. Both countries are very clear on the fact that the Gaza people should remain where they are, and international pressure should be put on Israel to change its course of action.
Yes.
So both countries will secure ongoing cooperation and they will benefit from regional stability.
So, Mohammed, what would a prolonged war in Gaza mean for both for Gazans and Egypt? I mean, do you believe that Cairo will eventually be forced to accommodate Gazans fleeing their homes, or and would that make Cairo be needing more financial aid from international organizations?
Yeah. This is a problem actually, because Egypt now has to respond to the challenge of prolonged war in Gaza, because this war poses two major challenges to the Egyptian Authority. First, economic, because if Egypt is to accommodate the hundreds or maybe 100,000 of Palestinian peoples, this means that this will increase the economic burden in Egypt. Secondly, the security concern, because now people to control 100,000 displaced people in Sinai, which already is somehow a weak point in the Egyptian security. So this will increase the burden, also security burden in Egypt. So that's why it was clear that Egyptian authority refused to accommodate displaced Gazan people in Sinai. But meanwhile, they don't do much actually to stop this outspoken plan of Israelis. And by the time Israeli forces is squeezing Palestinians at the border of Egypt, we might expect at any moment that those squeezed people will break through the border, and now Egypt has to face this challenge.
So on top of that, Tariq, how will Egypt's relationship with the IMF play out once the next president is elected? I mean, do we expect another round of devaluation of Egyptian pound, for example?
I think the continuation of Egyptian economic stability is in the interest of the international community, in particular the United States. Egypt is one of the rare countries on earth which receives an extreme amount of military and economic aid from the United States and major international organizations which the United States supports. So I think the US will do everything possible to make sure that Egypt is not in the middle of economic and geopolitical crisis, because it has invested lots of money and effort in the past, not only in the internal stability of Egypt, but given that Israeli-Egyptian relationship will be negatively affected if the economic crisis in Egypt continues. So I think the international community, most likely the US, will do everything possible to help Sisi deal with the ongoing economic crisis. If this includes the devaluation of Egyptian currency, we can expect this to take place.
So, Mohammed, how would you define the current Egypt-Israel relationship?
Yeah, in fact, now, of course, after Sisi, the relationship between Israel and Egypt improved significantly at many levels, like the security cooperation, even the diplomatic relation. Somehow they were belonging to the same axis in the regional polarization. But this war is somehow a turning point for the relationship between Israel and Egypt, because what Israel asks Egypt to do is too much to be accepted by Egyptian state, with Egypt state, because simply what is going on now is they are asking Egypt to be complicit in a genocide, complicit of new Nakba or second Nakba, as it's still famous in Egyptian media now. So this is too much. That's why I expect increasing tension in the coming few months, unless Israel was forced to cease fire and to negotiate reconstruction in Gaza. Otherwise, I think the strain in the relationship between Israel and Egypt will continue.
So, Tariq, meanwhile, Egypt will officially become a member of BRICS from January 2024, and the incumbent president, Abdel Fattah el Sisi, has expressed his appreciation on that. So could this membership help Egypt's ailing economy?
I think that's a very important question, which concerns the future geopolitical orientation of Egypt and many other countries, which are already included in the global south. I think Egypt is trying to find the best possible way of balancing its relationship with the United States and other leading members of the West on the other, and also China, Russia, and other leading members of the non-Western world on the other side. So Egypt's membership in BRICS is a plus on the part of China and Russia in their efforts to put a challenge to the liberal international order under American leadership. But on the other hand, we know that Egypt has very important security and economic relationship with the United States dating back to years ago. So this membership of Egypt in BRICS might also be seen as an advantage on the part of the United States to have much more influence inside the BRICS community. So I think it is going to be in Egypt's national interest to put its strategic eggs in different strategic baskets, similar to many other middle power countries like Turkey.
So, Mohammed, Tariq said he doesn't expect any significant changes in Egypt's current foreign policy. But do you expect any changes, especially in power balance in Eastern Mediterranean? Because although they have been working to further normalize their ties, I'm talking about Turkey and Greece, but both countries, as well as Egypt, have conflicting interests in Eastern Mediterranean. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the interests of Egypt and Turkey intersect in many files. Some of them actually seem that they have like almost the same vision about how should we proceed in these files, like Libya, Sudan, or Gaza. But I don't think that their relationship or their interest in East Med is that easy to be solved. At the end, East Mediterranean problem is linked to many other problems. The problem of drawing borders between Turkey and Greece, also between the acceptance of northern Cyprus. So that's why I don't think that Egypt will, despite that we expect that the relationship between Turkey and Egypt will improve in the coming period, but I don't think that it will improve to the level to solve this complicated problem of estimate.
So, Tariq, from Turkey's perspective, I mean, when we talk about, of course, the Eastern Mediterranean, how it is important for international organizations as well as regional countries to keep the Egyptian economy afloat as well as politics stable.
I think it is in the interest of international and regional actors to see a stable and prosperous Egypt. Egypt is a linchpin country in the Middle Eastern geopolitical environment. If there is any crisis, if there is an ongoing instability, if there is any possibility of seeing internal crisis, economic crisis in Egypt, no one will get any clear benefit from this situation. So I think it is both in the interest of China and Russia, the leading members of the non-Western world, and the United States and the leading members of the European Union to continue investing in Egypt's internal and external stability. Especially this is important if you approach to the issue from the American perspective. Egypt is a very important country to make sure that Israel feels itself secure and safe in the Middle Eastern geographical location. If any crisis between Egypt and Israel gets much worse, in particular due to the problem in Gaza, this is not going to benefit American and European geopolitical interests in the years to come. So they will do everything possible to stem this possibility.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.